Hello and welcome to the Cellympics module. I'm going to go over the events for Cellympics. If you don't know about what Cellympics is, then I would go to the teacher Cellympics site, Cellympics for Teachers. There's an article I wrote for the ASTA journal, and I have that article on my website, so you could read about it. That's probably the best place to learn about what Cellympics is and what motivated it to start and perpetuate. And then if you want to see what it's like, there are 2 videos on my website that are just compilations of Cellympics. And it really captures the chaos of Cellympics because there's a lot of chaos in Cellympics, and I love the chaos of it. And so I would really encourage you to read the article first, watch some of the videos, and then you'll see some more videos of my students doing the Cellympics events. Sometimes it's me, but a lot of times it's my students on the Cellympics student site, which is on this student part of my webpage. Then you just go to Cellympics. But this is for the events, so I'm going to tell you the pedagogy behind the events and all of the techniques that are learned and the reasons behind all of the rules. So welcome to Cellympics. The first event is LHP acrobatics. I'll just do it really quickly for you. That's it. So it goes like this: 4th finger, 4th finger, 3rd finger, 2nd finger, 1st finger. And then when you pitch high, you slap low. And I realize this is low, but I can't tell us a young student. This is for 3, 4, 5-year-olds, mostly the 4 and 5-year-olds, but this makes more sense to call this high. So we call this high. When they pitch high, they slap low with their right hand. When they pitch low, they slap high with their right hand. And at this point, if you don't have your cello out, I would encourage you to pause the video and get your cello out and try this, because you might think that you own this event, and then it might just own you, and you don't even know it until you get into it. So I would try it. So you pitch high, slap low, pitch low, slap high. Make sure it's right hand, and when you look at your students doing this, make sure it's their right hand. And the reason is because it's tempting to use the hand. I just slapped my face in the glasses. So readjust my glasses. It's tempting to use the hand that's doing the plucking, the active hand, but I want them to actively be using the opposite hands because it's harder. And then when they're thinking about which hand to use, they're not thinking about the things that really matter, which is their posture. And that's the reason behind LHP acrobatics. And this is 100% Carrie Beth Hockett's event. She did this little thing once. I don't even know if she remembers doing it, but I stole it and completely took it on in my Cellympics, and now I've just run with it. And it's probably one of my favorite events because it's so good at teaching everything about the setup of the instrument. So the things about Cellympics to succeed is a forte sound. None of this kind of sound, and you can't touch your cello with your hand. The reason is if we get a piano sound, it's possible to have our arm really low and do just fine. But if I say forte, all of a sudden I pluck 2 strings. So the double touch is one of the rules as well. And if you get any of these things, you're disqualified. So the double touch, oh, that wasn't one. That's a disqualification. If you touch the cello with your hand, it's a disqualification. Because also when you pluck forte, this could happen. And one of the harder things for a young cellist is feeling the knee secure against the side of the cello. And if that knee isn't really secure, then it's really hard to just get the setup feeling right. And things start moving, and then they start grabbing. Things aren't secure, so it's got to be secure inside of our legs. So if that knee is secure, then when I am here to plucking forte, then everything is stable. So many things are taught by this event. We've got the arm takes you there. We've got pre-vibrato, pre-shifting, pre-thumb position, all of these things. We've got mobility of the shoulder, so we've got our back playing from the back is involved. General setup, and then it's just really good at getting the whole cellist involved. So to recap, we want forte, right hand. And then when we go to third finger, we want to make sure that the cello isn't moving. We want to make sure that there's not a double touch on the 2 strings. So it's forte and forte. And then we want to make sure that the cello stays next to the neck. It's not a disqualification if it doesn't, but we just want everything to be stable. And that's it. So that is LHP acrobatics. The next event is Row, Row, Pluck Your Bow. And this was named by Rowan Enyart, along with all of the brilliant names in Cellympics, or just about all of them. He came up with Row, Row, Pluck Your Bow, Still as a Pillbug, Slide the Slug. All the fun ones were named by him. So thank you, Rowan. He was a former student. So Row, Row, Pluck Your Bow goes like this. And you try to get the fastest time. And then we go through. The rules are, if you touch before the bow hold is done, so if you touch the string and then do your bow hold in the air, disqualification. And if there's a banana thumb, which is this, pew, that's a disqualification. I always want a soft thumb right here. And so the only way to do that is to have a slightly rounded thumb. It could be straight-ish, but better if it's just a little bit bent and has some flex to it. And this is called a banana thumb because it's in the shape of a banana. See the banana shape? So no banana thumbs, or else I scream, banana thumb! Or you're disqualified, which is worse. So no banana thumbs. Finish your bow hold before touching the string. So don't touch early. And then the last thing, it's not a disqualification or anything, but we want to see touch, sink, go. Or sometimes I say stop, drop, and roll, which is what you do when you're on fire. So we play D, touch, sink, go. And then I have my students hold the bow like this, with pincer fingers, not like this where the bow hair is facing out, but it's facing into the thumb. So the bow hair is facing this way, not this way. And I have them do this because I feel like that's more efficient. I know there are lots of ways to pizzicato, but I found there are some situations, really rarely, but where this is actually slightly better. That's arguable, but I do like having the pincer finger available to play the string this way. So I don't allow pizzicato this way. And the reason is I want them to do the bow hold 5 million times and to redo this. This is a beginner event. So the thing that I want them to do is practice their bow holds. And they get in however many notes there are. What are there? Like 15 notes. So there are that many notes for them to do, and they'll do a bow hold for each note. But what they're worried about is not getting disqualified and getting the touch, sink, go. They're not thinking about their bow hold. They're just trying to get beyond the bow hold to get to the event. So in the beginning, if as an advanced cellist myself, I have no problem doing this. But for a beginner, it's adorable. It's like watching a movie in slow motion. They're like, and they'll do things. They'll be in the wrong spot and try to go to the right spot. And seeing those little muscles learn exactly where everything is and feeling their way around the bow it's priceless because it's cute, but it's also priceless because it's so good for cello development. So we just want them going back and forth as much as possible. So the event, then when they start, they might just do this. Get their crab claw. That's it. And then maybe when they're ready, then they'll add the next note. They put their bow hold in the air and then touch, sink with first finger ready, go. And then get ready to pizzicato. Get their third finger ready, get their bow hold ready, touch, sync, go. And getting that touch, sync, go is in the beginning stages is just so important. In my studio, I have this trouble. And not everybody has this trouble in their studios, which is brilliant, and I'm working towards that. But to counter that, I do touch, sync, go. Touch, sync, go. And then my students who really master it now generally have little problem doing that into the future. So that is row, row, pluck your bow. The next event is just a bow event. It is called Still as a Pill Bug. And the way that I hold the bow, some people hold the bow like this, and then they have their fingers go over the hair. But I actually have my students hold the bow with their thumb on the side of the bow, and then their fingers go on the side of the hair. And my students have their pinky on the side, not on the top. So if your students hold the bow differently, or if you hold the bow differently, this event just wouldn't work for you, and that's fine. Just don't use it. So then what I have my students do for Still as a Pill Bug is they're holding their bow with the hair facing to the left. So their hair is right next to their ear, and their tip is behind their head, and the bow is parallel to the floor. So with all of these things, then we do 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to tilt my bow a little bit so you can see, but 1, 2, 3, and then we see how still the tip is. Just count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And for the first time doing this, most students are like, and some of them almost drop their bow to catch their bow in the air. The point of this is anytime we pick up our bow off the string, we need to have connection between the pinky and the tip of the bow. So what I mean by that is normally the string, let's say this is your string, the string is holding up the bow. I don't need any tension in my hand. I don't need to hold the bow. The bow is holding down the string but with its own weight, and it's exerting force onto the string by the fact that it has what 80 grams of weight, and depending on where we are in the bow, that's going to matter too. But there's weight that's in the string because it's just a bow that has weight. How else why do I have to say that 10 million times? But when we lift the bow off the string, now we're holding the bow in our hand, and there's tension in my hand. And this is why for beginners, I never have them hold their bow like this. We always hold it like this, because then this is weightless, pretty much. And then this has a great deal of weight, and there's a lot of squeezing going on. But if I don't have a good connection here, this is what I call a dysfunctional pinky. I don't want this pinky. I want it to be on the side, because this doesn't control the tip with any great deal of precision. What I want is the pinky on the side of the bow, so that when I move my bow around, I can move the tip by just moving my pinky. That's ideal. So what happens with brush stroke is we take our bow off the string, and then our pinky is controlling the tip of the bow. And if we have a student doing brush stroke and they go up but their bow tip goes down because they have a dysfunctional pinky maybe, or because they just don't have, or it's sliding around there, then what happens is the brush stroke becomes uncontrollable, and the downs and the ups aren't even, or the articulation isn't clear, or the sound isn't clear. It just is a lot less control over the bounce. So brush stroke, and it's not really a bounce. It's actually set on the string. It's like a quick touch sync go, but there's not as much control over that touch because the pinky doesn't control the tip. So the problem with brush stroke usually is that the bow is doing this, where my hand is going down and the bow tip is going up, or it's seesawing, right? Whereas brush stroke actually should be this, where the bow is always parallel to the floor, and that's what we really ideally want. So I came up with this one to help with brush stroke, and it is the quickest way to communicate to a student you need to connect to the tip of your bow. And that's what I'll say to a more advanced student is, remember you're still as a pill bug pinky, just do that and control the tip of your bow. That's what I'll say to a student playing a concerto. But actually for a student that's just playing, brushstroke for the first time, I might do still as a pill bug, put their fingers back on gently. We don't need these fingers. And now, bum, 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 just do it. And once they listen, and if they have the other concepts in place where they can play from their back, they have a good bow hold, that their arm is released, and they have strong core. Once they can do this and have that balance between the thumb and the pinky, and then this is relaxed, usually the brushstroke just comes. Between this and dribbles, which is an intermediate event, I'd say that most of my bow technique in the beginning and intermediate stages doesn't have to be talked about. We just do these things, and then they know how to control their bow. So this is how much to squeeze, because there's squeezing involved, and then dribbles is how to let go. And I think that any bow stroke is just a fine balance of how much to hold and how much to let go. So that still is a pill bug. Whoever is the most still wins. I forgot to add one more thing about still as a pill bug. That's my daughter, by the way.
Yeah, it's a PS.
It's a PS. So the most important thing is that the pinky is curved in 3 spots. So we want the pinky to be curved here. I'll do it. Oh, I'll exaggerate a little bit. So we want it curved here, here, and also here. So 1, 2, 3. And it doesn't matter if they're curved a lot or a little, they just need to have a bit of a curve. So if they're like this, that's not enough. And a lot of students don't have the strength to do this. So what we actually do is we over curve, and sometimes the pinky goes the wrong way, and that's okay. There's less of a curve right here, and I don't mind that because I prioritize the curve of this joint over the curve of this joint. So they might be like this, which is a horrible bow hold. If you look at this, just this like claw of a bow hold. But what we're doing for this event is strengthening the pinky and its connection to the tip. So actually I don't care about the bow hold as much here when the pinky is this weak. So we strengthen the pinky, and eventually what happens is they start like this claw-like thing, and then eventually they can get to here. So if you'll notice when I'm like this, my thumb is quite crowded, and that is not ideal, but what we're trying to do is strengthen the pinky, and that's what we're prioritizing for still as a pill bug. So once we strengthen that pinky, then the thumb can get to a natural state or a better bow hold state, and the pinky can have a lot more strength to hold up that tip. The other thing to look out for is that if the thumb is overbent because it's weak, and then it is like this, and the bow is resting on the entire like tip, this whole joint of the thumb, that's of course undesirable, because if they're doing this and holding up the bow, that's not nearly the strength that it takes to do it like this. I'm trying to get the best angle. So this is desirable, this is undesirable. So we want them to be just on that okay corner of their thumb, and then on their pinky. And when they're out like this, they'll be on those spots. So if they're like this, that's not this event. They won't get a disqualification because there's no banana thumb, but they won't surely win a trophy. Okay, so that is still as a pill bug. The last beginner event is slide the slug. So slide the slug is my answer to the spider crawl, which is completely a violin event. And I've had friends argue this with me, that they find value in going down the bow like this. I just find very little beginner and intermediate value in going down the bow. I don't think that this is a skill that beginning cellists really need. Here's my daughter. Video 만들어요. So, 그래. So maybe she can demonstrate. Actually, she's a violinist, so she'll probably do more of the violinistic things. But the thing about still as a pill bug is we want to keep the hand at rest. So let's see my daughter's hand. So 이렇게, just 이렇게 그냥 내버려둬. This is her perfect cello bow hold right here. So her hand at rest. We want her fingers to look like that always on a cello bow hold. So if you look at my fingers at rest, like this, that's what my fingers look like. So if she were to do a bow hold, we would just put her right here, and that would be That would basically be her cello bow hold. So we want her fingers to look like that. She's not going to do it because she's not actually a cellist. But and then I'm going to slide my fingers. I'll do slide the slug. If you'll notice, my fingers. Yes, she likes this. My fingers are staying still. And then once my thumb reaches, boom, right there, the event is done. The person who gets there fastest wins.
And then you go down.
No, we don't go down because that's a violin thing. We don't want to do the down because doesn't have as much usefulness for us. So we just go up, and then we want the stillest fingers, and we want no banana thumb. So that means that while we're sliding, if we go too far, right, she knows what that is. If we go too far up, that's going to banana. So we want to just make sure that we don't go so far up, and then we can slide down. I have this little rubber thing, so it's keeping me from doing stuff. But it's more like a controlled slide. So if my students are squeezing the bow, then what's going to happen is they're going to have to shimmy. I'm squeezing terribly hard right now. And even if I squeeze just a little bit, I can't do this. I have to let go. And like I said before, it's a fine balance of letting go and holding the bow. And so this one's about letting go and allowing mobility in the thumb, which is where a lot of our flexibility comes from moving the thumb, and then the fingers are reacting. So I don't think we need to activate the fingers. I think it's a little bit more of getting the flexibility in the thumb going on. So Still as a Pill Bug is an event that usually starts at the frog, but if my students have one of these rubber things, we just start a little bit higher. And then we start the timer. We start it, okay, go. And then what we look for is no slippage, and this would be slippage. That's slippage. That means that they let go too much. So again, it's that fine balance of letting go and not letting go. So if they get slippage like that, this is all slippage, then that would be a disqualification. So they go, and then when they get to that spot, then the time stops here. Time stops, fastest time wins, stillest fingers win, banana thumb, and slippage is a disqualification. Hi, I realized I forgot something about Slide the Slug. And since I made the video, I installed new flooring. Da, 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 da. I did that by myself. I'm so proud of myself. And I did the trim too. Pretty good, huh? So, okay, Slide the Slug. The most important part is the part that I missed, basically. So these two fingers should constantly be touching the hair the whole time. So this is what Slide the Slug is. The reason is that the thumb, the way I teach the bow hold, the thumb is on this side of the bow as opposed to under the bow. So I don't put the thumb inside here. I put it on the bottom side here. And same thing as Slide the Slug. Still as a Pill Bug. That's the place. That's just where I hold my bow. It's the way I teach my students. And if you don't teach your students this way, then you just ignore it. But I do think that this changes the value of Slide the Slug. So if you're somebody who puts the thumb under, I think actually that this has value, but I think it has more value. This event has more value for someone like me whose thumb is on the side. I think it activates different muscles of the thumb, a different fine tuning. So the reason I do this, fingers touch the hair, is because if the thumb slips under the bow like this, where the thumb is in between the hair and the stick, I call that under the bow. So if the thumb slips under the bow and then the bow hair comes away from the fingers, then that's in the wrong part of the bow. And that's where the thumb wants to be for this, for the most part, when my students do this. So the challenge is keeping the thumb on the side of the bow, which means that you have to control your thumb and keep it from sliding in, especially when the stick becomes round. For most student bows, it goes from octagonal to round. So they really have to control where their thumb is going. So keeping those fingers still and also the fingers touching the hair makes it so that the way I hold the bow is the way that they're doing their event without my having to say, put your thumb here, put your thumb here. I just say, keep your fingers touching the hair. And some of them My students, I'm not super about touching the hair, so they're okay touching the hair. But for when I travel and I do this with other students, some students get really scared about touching the hair. So I just tell them, well, we can just cut off that one hair that you're touching or something. And then can be hard. This event can be hard for some students. So I have some accommodations, some practice modes. One is on a pencil, just doing this. Anyone whose bow hold is set can do this. This is really not a problem. The next one is taking the bow at the balance point. And did you know you could find the balance point just by bringing your fingers in? No matter where your fingers start, it always finds the balance point. So the other one is balance point, and you just hold the bow here and do your thumb like this. There's some good examples on the student site of students demonstrating this. And then from here, then we just do slide the slug here. And after that, then we can start from the frog and go on. Thumb, all the same things apply. No banana thumb, fingers stay still, no slippage, and then fingers touch the hair, and that would be the last thing. It turns out my daughter wanted to do a couple of these events to show you. She was very excited to show those of you out there these things in action. So I did LHP acrobatics with her. You'll notice, well, she's 6.5, just so you know her age, and she's a violinist. She sat with a cello before, so she's had some experience on the cello, but she's never done LHP acrobatics. She's done some pizzicato in the past, but not a lot. She's done a couple bow holds, but not a lot. And you'll see her set up throughout the time that we have together. It goes from looking really uncomfortable with the cello and her knees are rising or her toes are curling under. Sometimes they flatten those out. And by the end, she's looking really comfortable with the cello. I was actually very surprised by the end of this how quickly that came together because she's a violinist. Now, my students who play the cello, it's the same way. This event is so good at setting up the cello. So it's really fun. We had so many laughs doing this. And that's how it is with all of my students. They're just either really concentrating or they're just messing up and loving it. And I love that feeling of it's okay to make mistakes because that's how we learn and that's how we explore. And she is one that kind of likes to be perfect all the time, and that she was willing to do it over and over again was great to me as a mom. And by the end, she layered it for herself. I thought she was going to do it all again. She decided to take herself back to the beginning and layer it one by one. And then by the end of it, she really got settled with it. And I thought it was a great progression to show you because this is how it often goes with my students. So enjoy watching my daughter do LHP acrobatics. All right, we're going to size my daughter on this cello. So I'm going to start by holding the cello under the fingerboard like this. Not the best thing for the instrument, but okay for once. And then I'm going to have the end pin slack. I'm going to look for this to go behind and below the ear. And I'm going to look for it to hit mid-sternum. And then see how she's already kind of getting out of the way. I'm going to ask her to just stay. And I'm going to make a point to come from the side so she doesn't have to get out of the way. Then her hands will go on her knees so that she can feel like she's sitting straight. Oh, look at how straight she's sitting. Oh. Okay, so this is going to come in, and she's not going to do anything. See how her body just stays straight? But did you notice that her body did this a little bit? So I can say stay tall. And then everything will stay there. And then I just release the end pin into where we need it to be. Now her knees are keeping the cello from coming in, so I'll just open up her knees a little bit. And look at that, it's in a great spot. It's mid-sternum. Her knees are touching the cello at the bouts. And then I just release the strap to match where the end pin ended up. See, that was a double touch. So that's what we want to avoid. Double touch. Double touch 뭔지 알아? A double touch is when you play two strings. That's a disqualification. Okay, so thumb under, and we use pinky. Pinky. 크게, loud. 뺨 때문에. Alright, so LHP acrobatics 할까? Okay, 이렇게 해요. It goes like this. We go 4, 4, but we can't touch with this hand. 3, 3, no touching. 2,
Touched it a bit
2, 1,
on your head.
1. Okay, maybe on the head. So 왼쪽으로. Okay,
엄마가
so
저는 헤드 했어.
okay, let your chest touch and let your hugger brothers touch. A first. A.
이거?
A is this one. Forte, loudly. Oh, 더 크게, louder. And then down here. Good. And now forte, next finger, third finger, D string. And then G string, second finger. Good. So no thumb touching here now. Here we go. So don't touch your thumb. Don't touch your thumb. You can touch your thumb here if you need it, but A. Now just no thumb, just your pinky. Forte, louder. And then, so that forces that knee to be engaged. And then G, louder, louder. And that was good. Now we're gonna clap in between. So it goes like this. 크게, loudly.
또 크게 해야 해?
Yeah. Okay, nice and loudly. And we're gonna have our feet secure. Our chest is gonna be strong. Yeah, and our shoulders are gonna be soft. Okay. And no thumb up here. No. Oh, 크게. 크게. And then really loudly. Okay, there's one more step. Do you want to do it now or later?
No.
You do? Okay.
I'll try.
So, your 발 여기에 넣어. Put your foot there. Then I'll put it against your foot. Okay, so
Crazy.
this, when you pizzicato here, you slap here. When you pizzicato high, you slap low. When you pizzicato low, you slap high. With your bow hand. Which one's your bow hand? That's your bow hand. So your bow hand will touch your head or touch your knee. So when you pizzicato high, bow hand to knee. When you pizzicato low, bow hand to head. Do you want to try it by yourself or do you want help?
How?
Okay. So, okay, feet in the right spot, knees outside the cello, strong chest, soft shoulders. Good. Oh, don't touch the cello! Oh,
Why?
phew, that's a disqualification. That means you're out.
But my knee is touching the cello.
This hand can't touch the cello.
But then this knee can't touch the cello.
The knee can touch the cello. You can
Okay.
touch here like this. Okay, let's try it. So you do pinky A, clap, and then clap, and then slap. So it's clap, slap, and then pinky A, and then clap, slap. Okay, do it. Don't touch the tip. Third finger, clap. Oh, it's forte. Now don't use your thumb. Third finger. Clap, slap. Just and then second finger. Clap. Good. And then clap, slap, and then bow hand to your head. Oh. Don't hold the cello. Don't hold.
Can
Don't
my arm
wait.
touch it?
No, your arm can't touch it. No, the string won't go. You use your leg to hold it. Bow hand. And then foot on the floor. C string. First finger. C string. Feet up on the floor. Feet on the floor. And then, or else I can grab underneath and tickle your feet.
There should be a penny underneath this.
Yeah, or I could just tickle them.
Yeah! No, there should be a penny underneath this.
Next time. Yes! No thumb. Just hold it. Don't use your chin. Just hold it. Yes! That's it. Whew. 잘했어. Good job. Koman, do you want to stop there? Do you want to do it again?
Funny activity.
아니요. 이거 그만할래? 또 할래? Do you want to do it one more time or just stop?
한 번 더. 근데 마지막 part 안 하기는 힘드니까.
좀 힘들어. It's a little bit too hard. Do you want me to show you? You can help me. Okay, so I do this. Which hand slaps where? And where does it slap? Good. This one? Where does it slap? Where does which hand slap? Okay, do it for me. Ugh. Ow!
Don't touch the cello.
Ow!
Are you crazy?
Ow!
Next time even more harder.
엄마 왜안 할게? I'll do it to you then.
찡그레가
하고 싶어? 혼자서? Do you want to do it by yourself or do you want to stop? Okay. Okay, 발, your feet, and then you have a nice, your chest and your knee will hold the cello. That way your head doesn't have to hold the cello. 이거 안 하고? You're not going to clap and slap?
I'm gonna start all over.
Oh, good. Okay, and then claps. And then add the claps. Oh, good plan. 좋은 계획이야.
But this adds the next part.
Mm.
So I can touch it like this, can I, or not?
아니요. That's still a disqualification.
Ow! Disqualification is our person.
Double touch. Okay, it's okay. Keep going. I love that her feet are on the floor, and look at the setup is so much better already. 이제? Now? Do you want help or do you want to do it by yourself?
Trying to do it by myself. Stretch. Just dipping the gel like this.
혼자서 할래? Do you want to do it by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. 크게, loudly. No thumb. Oh.
Ow!
No thumb up here. 두 번째, second finger.
My arm does it for me.
And floating arm, no thumb. Floating arm, no thumb. There you go. No floating arm. Then it won't ring. That does not look comfortable. That's okay, but you just would never get a trophy for that one. To get a trophy, you should look like a cellist. Not look like... Okay, we can stop. 그만할래?
Look over there sometimes.
그만할래? 더 할래?
더.
더? You want to do it again? Okay. 다른 걸? Oh. So a different one? Okay, 그러면 첼로 여기.
저기 그걸 쓸 때.
You want to write it down? Okay.